Throughout the journey down the river, Twain is deliberate in stressing the moral growth and development of Huck. It's one of his central themes in the book. Huck changes from a typical Southern boy who prides himself in being in a street gang and is quite clearly a product of the racism he's grown up around, into someone who would break the law to help a newfound friend, who just so happens to be black and stuck in the chains of slavery, an institution Huck had previously accepted without a thought. Despite the emphasis on individual growth, the novel abruptly ends with the revelation that Jim was freed by Miss Watson 2 months prior. The Phelps then free Jim without a second thought, and Huck never has to make a final judgment regarding Jim's freedom or the overall institution of slavery. Along the same lines as our in-class debate, this led Allie and I to wonder, why does Twain emphasize the growth of one individual just to end his story in such a way that this development doesn't matter? Taking these ideas on a broader and more universal scale, we began to wonder, is it even possible for one person to create lasting change? And if the individual isn't responsible for this, who is? How do we incite change in institutions and societies that are so entrenched in their ways? We went to the Stanford campus, around the bookstore and cafes, and asked people what they thought of this dilemma.
Define societal norm.
Oh, dang.
The majority of a community sets societal norms, and that like whatever they believe and whatever they follow and whatever they practice becomes the societal norm. There's like a minority group, and they're trying to practice something as well. Like it's going to be seen by that community as like not the societal norm. They're going to think it's weird, and they're going to outcast it sort of.
The degree of investment in not changing in any society is enormous. The financial, corporate, intellectual, individual reasons not to change are always immense.
Would the civil rights movement have succeeded if it weren't for Martin Luther King or Bob Dylan? I don't know. I think it would have.
I don't think you can quantify how much power a person has. They have as much power as they believe they have. If you believe that you have a message to share, you have the responsibility and the power to share it, and I think your only limitations are really as far as you're willing to go.
At least from my perspective, the change appears when there is one person or a small group of persons that's not a community that thinks different and are willingness to push to make his, her, or their idea happen.
I think there are some very extraordinary individuals that are usually not the brains of an entire movement for change, but happen to be very effective spokespeople. One individual can make a huge difference if they're articulate, I guess, but a movement is usually not one person identifying a problem in society. It's usually pretty collective. It's collective action.
I would say that it's kind of the best way to make changes through communities, through organizations, people coming together and working on a project that they feel really strongly about. And I think what's great about that is that everyone has a different passion and everyone has something that they're passionate about. So things kind of are taken care of by different people, and it's kind of like self-delegating based on what you're interested in, what you're passionate about. And it's a really good way of making changes.
I'd say it seems like TV and community organizations like schools, just any place that has a voice that people listen to. I think that tends to have a lot of it.
There are all kinds of different ways in which communities change societies, and it would really depend. But if you were to take that question and put it slightly differently and say that a society is the center and certain communities are on the margin, then one thing is always certain. The margin defines the center in the end. The center never defines the margin. So if you have a small activist group of some kind that has a passionate point of view, in the end it's likely to have a big effect.
And it all begins with commonalities. So you've got to find some way that you can connect with that person, and until you do that, they won't listen to you. So I think finding that commonality with another person and saying, hey, hey, we agree on this. Maybe we can agree on other things. Maybe you can listen to me and hear my perspective on something else. So starting with that commonality is the only way to bridge the gap.
If you're a vegan and you want other people to be vegan, if you lead by example and like compel other people to join you, it's going to be a lot more effective than if you just shame everyone else's choices. So I feel like that requires like self-awareness, good intentions, and an understanding of yourself and others' motivations.
By law, like, people aren't like required to not discriminate.
Yeah.
So the only thing I think you can do for that is like raise awareness. And if people accept it, then good. That societal norm changes. But if people don't accept it, then it doesn't change.
Calmly and respectfully pointing out, some flaws with, whether it be marriage or immigration rights or something like that. I think pointing out the effects, the negative effects of a societal problem are really helpful, and not illustrating not with hypotheticals, but if again you like talk to your neighbors about my mom's a Mexican immigrant, for instance, so you talk to them about what it's like to be like a first generation American and how you have family on both sides of the border and stuff like that. Communicating in that way is very, very helpful.
That's practice what you preach.
Sharing what you're excited about and making it exciting to other people just based on your passion. And I think just talking to people is probably the best way of doing that. And a lot of times when you're really excited about something, it really just comes across to other people, and it can be really inspiring.
It could be like amazingly pretty powerful if you just know how to, if you have connections, and if you just know how to really well bring awareness to not only like a specific group, but to the whole society.
So maybe lasting change can be created by just carrying a belief over and over again through time.
I think lasting change, it's people from different walks of life coming together, and I think it's about people using what they have and everyone bringing something different to the table.
Lasting change, I guess a lot of what I study here is kind of development issues, and I tend to address that from an engineering perspective. Trying to make a long-term positive impact to somebody, then I guess fully understanding the problem, the goals, and making sure that there's a clear path for implementing whatever the proposed solution is, which is usually part financial, part organizational design, stuff like that, I guess is how you kind of go about it.
Lasting change is done by consensus. Consensus has to include legislation, the things that make change permanent, the things that make change for everybody, not just for a few people. That can't just happen on the margins. It has to be brought to the center and brought into the processes that everybody has agreed on, which includes legislation.
Let's get together.